Hello everybody, today it is time for our Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness spoiler discussion. I have Matthew here, Phenom Sage. How's it going, my man?
It's going good, dude. It's going real good right now.
That's good to hear. We're just gonna keep it chill, keep the discussion going. We're just gonna talk about this movie, this crazy movie filled with madness. I have not heard your thoughts on this film at all, so let's just start with like sort of general thoughts and then we'll start dipping into more of the spoilery, the crazy shit. This is a spoiler discussion. Click off if you haven't seen it, whatever, blah blah blah. You get the idea. What are your did you like the movie? I mean, like what's going on here?
What I will begin saying is that other MCU movies wish they had this movie's weirdness and this movie's just style just filled to the brim with just Sam Raimi goodness that I was very much hoping to see. And in my opinion, I've heard some people say that it feels kind of like watered down Sam Raimi. I thought for the most part, I really feel like they let him do what he wanted to do with this movie, and I think that shone through. I had a really good time, by the way. I really liked the movie.
Yeah, I did too. And I to those people that say it feels watered down, like I think that it's okay for. I don't think that's like Marvel's decision to I mean, obviously he needs to keep a PG-13, right? There's only so much stuff you can do with the movie, but like I think as a director you need to have restraint. Like I don't think it's like it was his choice to like say I don't want to go too far, Like I think that's just like a director being smart. I don't think that's like Marvel stepping in and saying, well, you can't do these shots because that's too weird, Sam Raimi. Like, I don't really think so.
Like, at the same time, like, I'm watching this, I don't see, other than, like, there was some obvious, like, previs CG stuff where it's like, okay, this is kind of what I expected from a Marvel movie. But, like, outside of those sequences, I really don't think he was that restrained in like what he was doing. I feel like he kind of went all out, and I really respect him for it because it was so sick.
I would say outside the first like 20 minutes, I think that first battle with Shuma-Gorath, the eye monster, feels very Marvel. I think that like just the beginning of the movie feels very Marvel.
It does, but like even during that fight, I was getting like Spider-Man 2 flashbacks.
Yeah.
Of, like the way the America's character was like thrown up the building and she's on that ledge. That felt super Spider-Man 2 to me, and the way that was shot and the way the action kind of unfolded there, that I was getting like Doc Ock Spider-Man on the side of the building vibes.
I 100% agree. When he first gets in, when our Strange gets first into battle and he's on that balcony with the wine or whatever, takes a sip of the wine, throws the cape on, like jumps off it just felt super Spider-Man. Like that was straight out of Spider-Man. I loved it.
I loved it.
Loved it a lot. I really liked America Chavez. I really liked her character, and like
it was good.
I was surprised because like I knew she was in the movie. I'm like vaguely familiar on her comic book counterpart, but actually like I thought the actress was great. I thought that like the character, there was like things that they did to develop her character that I don't necessarily agree with, but like in terms of like performance, I thought that she was
pretty. Tell me what you're talking about in a bit, because I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Okay, yeah.
The thing that I really like, other than like all the Sam Raimi goodness, which we can get into in a bit, the thing that I really loved about the movie is that the three, like the big characters that are kind of like driving the core of the story, they all had like a pretty satisfying and kind of like heartfelt arc to their characters, where like by the end they have a very clear journey that they're taking by the end of the movie. And then by the end of the movie, the third act was easily my favorite part of the movie.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's because of not just because of all the weirdness and coolness, but it's because by the end you have these like really satisfying resolutions to their characters, where like the movie, Sam Raimi, he's up there with like James Gunn for me, and being able to like take these like really weird ideas and really weird and kind of like honestly like messed up characters and really give them a heart, like a humanity to them, where you just by the end, like Doctor Strange is like in this like dumb zombie form, and like he's giving this really heartfelt like motivation and message to America's character. I felt it. I was like, damn, dude, this movie it has a soul to it that's really endearing. And then obviously you have the Wanda stuff, which was easily my favorite stuff of the movie, and that also has a really nice arc where she's just this ridiculously powerful and supreme character that like nobody can figure out how to solve this dilemma they're in, and they keep chasing after this mythical book that like it's basically like a Deus Ex Machina or like
Super MacGuffin.
Yeah, Super MacGuffin. That's the right term. And they're chasing after this, and then ultimately when they get it, spoilers, it's not really anything. Like it instantly evaporates. They can't really use it for anything. And the key to defeating her was actually something relatively simple, something they could have done from the beginning, but it just makes sense. It was the perfect solution and the perfect climax to that character, the way they end up defeating her.
So I have a question. Yeah, I agree with all that. I do have a question though. You did not watch WandaVision.
I know I'll get like tons of hate for this for not watching WandaVision before this.
I get it, but like I'm curious, like what did you think of? Because to me, like I don't want to say WandaVision was like required viewing before this movie, but like I like as an audience member not watching WandaVision, you did not know that she had kids, or what happened in Westview, and like why she's kind of a villain now.
That's the thing, is that like for me, I don't want to say it's an issue, but for me, because I obviously don't have that context, but for me the first act was definitely the point where I was like, I was having a little bit of trouble getting into it, because I don't like how the movie starts, that first scene where like they're being chased after a monster. I think it would have been a lot more powerful to start the movie with kind of like an end game first scene where you see like Hawkeye on that farm. It's a very quiet and slow opening into that like darker kind of storyline. I think this movie would have been a lot cooler, or started a lot cooler, if it like started with a Wanda flashback, or like a Wanda centered scene where like they show her with that scene with her kids and her family, and then she just wakes up. To me, that scene felt kind of rushed and kind of jarring the way they insert it into the movie. But if they started with that scene and let it breathe a bit more, I think that would have been a perfect opening. And I think you would have, for the most part, I think I had like all the kind of context that I needed to understand what was going on with her character. It was just kind of some screenplay and pacing things that were kind of confusing me a bit. Like I don't like how the very first introductory scene to her character where Doctor Strange visits her, like they have a conversation for like 2 minutes, and then it's like, oh no, I'm evil now, and you instantly get into it. Because I like that they do get into it very quickly, but it's almost like I was wondering this rewatching the trailers and like seeing all that stuff. I'm like, why did they even try to hide this if they just like so anticlimactically cut into her being the villain anyways?
Yeah, I guess I really don't know. I mean, they showed Professor X in the trailer. Like, well, I don't even like.
They show so much in those trailers, but also I heard that like this was originally like a much longer movie. So I'm wondering like maybe that the first half or the first third is what suffered from that, and that actually was a bigger deal when she was kind of revealed to be that. I don't know.
I've heard people saying that like, oh, the movie's not long enough, and
well, apparently they cut out like 40 something minutes of content that was originally supposed to be in.
Yeah, but I gotta be honest, I didn't have any issue. I mean, there's obviously things that need to be fleshed out more, probably, and that could have been in those cutout. The length of the film to me is, I actually thought maybe like 5 or 6 minutes too long.
Really?
I think that the second act of the film kind of drags a little bit. When we first get to 838, I think it kind of drags a little bit.
The scene where they're like going through that first world or whatever, the first universe.
Yeah, like walking around just
memory
New
lane
York,
thing.
like like that.
Yeah, that's the one scene where I was like, all right, this is kind of going on a bit too long here. But once they hit like Illuminati, like all the way from Illuminati to the end, I was like all in.
Absolutely,
like, that was all greatness.
Yeah. Goodness gracious, let's just go and talk about the Illuminati scene. I've heard, I've been like unfortunately falling into like fandom and getting involved in a lot of discussions and
that's one thing we haven't even talked about. This is a divisive movie.
Yeah,
like, this is a movie that like a lot of people can't agree on whether it like sucks or it's actually great, which I find really interesting.
I do too, and like for me, the reasons why people think it sucks, I think they're wrong. I obviously film is subjective, but like I just think you're wrong. I'm sorry, but
a lot of the reasons I've seen are very dumb. There was like one comment where I was like, these people. I've told you about this before. These people, the modern Marvel fandom is like so obsessed with these like cameos and like lore and like building this overall like picture of the universe, which I guess is fine. But in this kind of movie, when you have this like very irreverent and like very unceremonious treatment of those cameo characters, that's when people are getting like angry about it. They're like saying, what, Professor X should have had like an epic battle with Scarlet Witch. And it's like, no, that wasn't the point of that entire
the movie. It's not an Illuminati movie. Like those are treated like cameos. That's literally what they are.
Not even that. Not even about it not being an Illuminati movie, but like it's a horror movie. It's a pseudo horror movie, and like appropriately, you have Scarlet Witch as like a like this. I don't know what the word is, but like this substitute for a horror movie villain that is like just on a rampage killing characters. This isn't about having like her having this epic battle with somebody. It's about her being this unstoppable force, and then by the end, there's something, you know, a bit more clever to dealing with the problem, which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that's actually a really cool way of also tying that into like a horror movie premise. Is like in horror movies, the good ones anyways, you don't see them just like having this battle with the villain. Like,
yeah.
You usually have them like discover something that helps them like come up with a solution in a more interesting way.
Yeah, for me, like the whole, I think the Illuminati is the ultimate plot device, in my opinion, and how it, for starters, demonstrates how far gone Wanda is, and that she's willing just to straight up kill people. It demonstrates her strength and how strong she is, because she's killing people that took out Thanos without having to alter time. Like they said, we stopped Thanos. We didn't have to. we didn't need to put on the other gauntlet and kill Iron Man. We didn't need to do any of that. We just stopped him. Yeah. And like you see that they're formidable, I guess, and she just kind of wipes them out immediately. A lot of people didn't like that, and they say that like, oh, well, Mr. Fantastic should have come up with a better plan. They didn't know who Wanda was. In their universe, Wanda is a human being. They didn't know what her powers are or anything like that. They approached the situation. They approached the situation through de-escalation and saying, hey, we stop. Like, let's, you know, they didn't try to kill her. They didn't want to kill her. They wanted to stop her from what she was doing. They didn't understand how strong she was.
I agree with everything you're saying, but also I don't even think you need to like go to these lengths to like justify the logistics and like the internal logic of the movie. Like it doesn't really matter what those characters were. Like the whole point from a meta angle was we're in a different universe. Scarlet Witch is here. It's a horror movie, and she's going to kill them all and chase after our protagonist. And that was the whole point of that. So any kind of like little inconsistencies you can poke in like who those characters were and like the logic behind what they should have done, I don't think it really matters that much, to be honest.
No, it really doesn't. And again, that's you don't want Wanda killing our heroes in our universe, but you want her killing really strong characters. So
Well, here's
we
my
kill these
question for you.
characters. Like,
Here's my question for you relating to that, because I didn't see WandaVision, but the biggest complaint that I have seen from people who have watched WandaVision was that they actually kind of like mutated her character a bit to justify her being a villain, being this like scary horror villain in this movie, when in WandaVision that she was more of a human and more relatable and grounded character. What's your take on
so
that?
this is where I get the most upset, and where I think the fandom is absolutely 100% wrong, and I feel like that they were watching a different show. Like,
Okay.
in WandaVision, in my opinion, is a villain origin story. And I think Wanda as a character throughout the MCU has had a lot of bad things happen to her, and it's like, it's kind of shocking she hasn't been a villain yet. In my opinion,
She kind of started off as a villain.
exactly. But there's an after credit scene in Wanda where she's reading the what's the Darkhold, where you see her going through the Darkhold, and you see her. She wants to find her kids. Like at the end of the series, and she knows the consequences of messing with the Darkhold. There's another character that is poisoned by the Darkhold. She stops them, and knows that the Darkhold is evil. If I open this book and read it, it will bad things will happen. But I want to find my children, so I'm going to do it anyway. And like, I don't understand what else context do you need in that situation? To me, this felt like the natural progression of her character. She's evil in that show. She kills people in that show. She manipulates an entire town and hurts. But people don't want to say that she's bad because she's cute and the show's cute and she's with Vision and like, no, she's fucking evil, dude. Like, she's an evil human being, and at the end of the series, you see her reading the Darkhold, and she reads that knowing what it's going to do. It's like a drunk driver drinking before driving. You know what you're doing. Like, she is evil. She knew that this was going to happen.
I wonder if maybe, as someone with no context to WandaVision or like, you know, all that stuff, how it ends, I wonder if what I was saying before, if maybe in the first act, if you just had like maybe a few more scenes, like spread out a little bit, of her like slowly descending into that madness instead of just like instantly being there, like, oh, I'm the villain now, I'm gonna kill all of you. I wonder if that would have like kind of acquainted people more with how she acts in this movie, because like as someone who just came in, I'm fine with how she was, but like at the same time I watched that first act and it's like, okay, this is like kind of rushing past some stuff in a way where I wish we could kind of let this character breathe a bit more before we start jumping into all this antagonist stuff.
Yeah, for me, like, again, it felt like the natural progression of the character. Like, it felt like the next step.
Agree.
Like, and like, yeah, I guess they could have done that to like appease to some fans, but like, I just don't see. I don't get that complaint at all. Like, I really don't.
I think it's more like, not that people can't see like what was going to happen, it's that they wanted to see it happening instead of like having to kind of connect the dots a bit, like having that, you know, that final scene from WandaVision, like she's reading the Darkhold, and then the very first scene in this where she's like evil. Like, I think maybe having something in the middle there to descend into that character maybe would have helped the overall storyline and pacing a bit, because that was my only like real screenplay issue, is that like I just didn't like how she was introduced into the movie. I think you could have built her up a bit more interestingly instead of just instantly having her there. And I'm still kind of really confused about why they were hiding that in the trailers when it happens within like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and it's not even like treated as a spoiler release.
Yeah,
like,
if it was like a betrayal moment,
happening.
like she's in the multiverse with them or something, and then like later you find out, oh, you're the one that's been trying to do this the whole time. Like, are you kidding? Like, that might have been more
like
impactful.
she's helping Strange and America like escape something, and then she's like, actually, I'm gonna take you now. Like something like that.
Yeah, I actually do think that could have worked just for story sake. I think could have worked a little better.
Twist. Like, if that's supposed to be a twist, then yeah, I think it would have been more interesting to handle it that way instead of just like, oh, I didn't say her name, did I? And it's like, oh, I guess she's evil.
Yeah, like, they entered the red zone. All the trees start dying around her. Like, okay,
Yeah.
she's
Dude,
bad.
I loved the one good thing about that first scene though, where they're like escaping that monster. The one thing that I loved about that was how they brought in that dead Doctor Strange and the way that was reincorporated later. So
Oh,
good.
and it caught me off surprise too, where it's like, well, you have to have someone else. You have to have like another version of yourself to
Yeah,
jump into,
dude.
and he's like, who said it has to be alive? That was
That's
like,
so
and then
good.
you just immediately, oh shit! Like you just immediately
That's
realize what's
Raimi
going on.
greatness.
Yeah, I loved that. I love that. I love the scene where he fights evil Doctor Strange. In that, in
music note
it's
stuff.
people hated that. I fucking
What?
loved that, dude.
Who hated that? What?
I've heard a lot of people
No.
complain about that scene.
No, the only complaint I have about that scene was that the music was like not really mixed that well into the scene. Like I could barely kind of hear it. But
Yeah, I wish it was a little louder. I just like, dude, it's Bach versus Beethoven, dude. This shit rules. It's like
that
the
was
fight of the
really
orchestras.
cool. I don't know how you can. You'd have to just like hate fun. To
Yeah,
hate
that to me
something
that
like
is just extremely creative and visually really fun to look at. And it was actually really badass too when he uses the harp at the end with that final note. That was so cool.
My favorite scene. Well, okay, let's just talk about our favorite scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so my favorite scene was basically just the entire Illuminati sequence, and that was because I felt like that was where Raimi was just allowed to go crazy in a way I honestly was not expect. Dude, I'm seeing some like mockery of people who are like saying that this movie pushes the PG-13 rating or whatever, but I really do think that some scenes are like, wow, how did they get away with
It's the
showing that?
It's the Black Bolt death. That is
Yeah,
like
that one was,
really
like,
shocked me. That was
what
the
the hell?
holy shit moment where like I was like, are you fucking serious? Like that is insane. Like
Yeah,
I was
like,
definitely
what the-
surprised. I was definitely surprised, but what a that's the most violent MCU death ever. Like
And even like the PG-13 deaths, I was like, even like more PG-13 deaths, I was like, my God, dude, this is kind of brutal the way they're like shooting this and handle like the
attack on
the
Carmitage,
Reed Richards?
or
Reed
how Reed Richards dies.
death? Yeah.
String cheesed, man.
Yeah, dude. But even after those deaths, though, I loved probably like out of that sequence, my favorite part of that sequence was when she's chasing after them and like she's like breaking through those iron barriers.
Oh,
and,
in the
like, you have
underground, yeah, the little
yeah,
tunnels
you
or
have
whatever.
The Sam Raimi camera work going crazy, like just so good. And also the scene in the temple or whatever, the headquarters where they were at in the beginning, where like she's trying to get through these like puddles, like
Oh,
these
the mirror
mirrors.
realm. Yeah. I love that, dude. They cover all the reflections or whatever. That was like
Yeah,
such a
dude.
horror movie thing. That
Well,
was
that's like a straight up Evil Dead reference. Like
Yeah.
the way she's like reaching through.
I really, really like that. That was, and the way she comes through that gong all twisted up and shit. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, she's like twisted and like rearranging her bone. Like that was like, oh my god, dude. We're going wild here.
Love that stuff. I actually really, really liked. I liked the lore that they set up with the Illuminati. I really liked like. That felt like another universe that's been lived in. Like it felt like these characters did things important in their world, and I think they set that up pretty well with like how they established like with what happened on Titan and what happened with Strange. I thought it was really intriguing to me.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'd heard before the movie from like a bunch of Raimi fans, not even Raimi fans, just like general moviegoers who are kind of like jaded with Marvel movies like me. They were like, man, this movie was awesome, except for that one little section with all those cameos that felt kind of shoehorned in. I didn't feel that way. I thought, as someone who hates cameos, I thought that the way they handled bringing those characters in, and especially how they ended up being used in the story, I thought was very appropriate for what they were doing. It didn't feel like Marvel nonsense to me, even though like obviously you want to say like, oh man, Reed Richards, he's gonna be back, but like at the same time, it's like that's not really. I don't think that's like a producer's first idea for how they want Reed Richards to be like introduced into the the MCU just
Yeah.
instantly getting this violent death.
It makes me curious, like, do they still cast John Krasinski as Reed Richards? Like, I don't even know.
Oh, absolutely.
You think
'Cause,
so?
like, they were no. I've seen some people think this. I'm like, what? No, that was clearly an indication that's confirmed because like, nobody in the other universes had different actors for like those same characters. Like those were all different.
Variant versions of
Yeah.
what we know are these characters, because that was the Captain Marvel character. That was Lashana Lynch's character, and like she's in Captain Marvel. She's not the one that becomes
Exactly.
Miss Marvel.
Like those
or whatever.
are all like the titles are a thing, but like those are all the characters are all the same actors playing them in all the different universes.
Yeah.
So
And-
that is like, unless you're gonna just say like, oh, somebody else was up there in space, like that makes no sense. That
That would be
that's
like, oh,
Reed
it's just that's not. Yeah, if it is a different actor, then that would not be Reed Richards in that universe. It's going to be a different
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
I guess on that point, I definitely agree. I'm just like, that is probably one of the more ballsier things to do. Is like your first introduction to this actor as this character is a violent death. Like,
Yeah,
that
well, I
is-
love it. But at the same time, I've seen some people kind of like criticizing it, like, oh, that's not cool enough. It's like, come on, dude. Who cares? He's gonna have his own shining moment in his own movie. Like, just let them have fun with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really liked the Professor X moment when he enters her mind or whatever, and it's like all white, and she finds her like under the rubble or whatever. Like that's her.
That's her actual. That's that universe's Wanda.
Yeah, and you really see
Trapped
how.
in her mind.
Yeah, I really liked that. Like I love that. That was straight out of like X-Men 2. Like I got straight up X2 vibes. And I really felt that scene. And like I thought that those characters. Black Bolt was a badass dude. I love Black Bolt. I thought he was so when he's the one that kills Doctor Strange. I thought that was a really powerful scene where he's like, "I'm sorry," and like his voice just destroys him. Like,
I'll be honest, that the Black Bolt character, that's kind of like a gag character to me now.
He
cannot
he
take
is.
that character seriously.
He is a gag character. He's from a failed TV series called The Inhumans. Like he's literally like Marvel's only big failure. I mean, like that was like an ABC series that got canceled after
Oh, I didn't even know
one
about
season.
that.
Yeah. And it's like considered not canon anymore. And when they brought that was like to me the biggest surprise is that they actually used that character again, the same actor
Yeah.
and everything. Like that was a failure. Like that was like critically like everybody hated that show. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't even that was never intended to even be like a part of Marvel canon. So it was kind of
So
cool that they brought
I
that.
need you to tell me what's going on with that post-credit scene. Who is that? What's going on there?
So that is Clea. She is the Sorcerer Supreme in her universe. She is in the comic books becomes a love interest for like they get married in the comics. Like super like head over heels love interest, and basically like she's from the Dark Universe. I'm guessing the next Doctor Strange is going to be called Doctor Strange in the Dark Universe. That would have to be my guess. But basically, it's like a universe where everything is bad. And it involves Dormammu. Like Dormammu's dead in their universe, but I don't. Is there other Dormammus? I always thought Dormammu was like sentient in all the multiverse, but I guess not. I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's gonna be hard going back to like just lame villain of the week stories now. Like Wanda was just super compelling and interesting, and I like that she was actually set up in previous movies. So now it's going to be hard going back to like a Dormammu kind of villain.
Well, I mean, it makes me curious. Like if Sam Raimi's coming back for Doctor Strange 3, that already gets me excited. But like, I think that it depends on what the direction is. Like in the original Doctor Strange, if you remember, the after credit scene was with Mordo, and like you realize that he was evil, but they don't really talk about that, and they kind of just abandoned that plot line. I mean, they mention it like, oh, Mordo's evil in my universe, like he's a douchebag in my universe.
Yeah, what's going on? Was he like in jail or something by the end? Like
you see that in Doctor Strange 1, the after credit scene is that he wants to kill all sorcerers. Like he's a sorcerer hunter basically, and wants to end the whole Carmitage. He wants to destroy all of that and burn it to the ground basically. And he does kill sorcerers. Like you see him take the life of another sorcerer character, and I guess like that stuff happened between him and Strange that's like off screen, you know, like that between the time jump, I guess, between Doctor Strange 1 and 2. And I kind of like that. I don't think that, like, I don't know if I want to see that dude as the main villain of the story, because that would kind of feel like a villain of the week. It all depends on how it's directed, though. You can make a formidable villain in a movie. It just depends on. And I like how Doctor Strange creates villains. The scene between the Illuminati, you know what that one reminds me of when Wanda's killing all of them? It reminds me of
Invincible. Did you watch that?
Yeah. Definitely Invincible vibes. Definite Invincible vibes. But it reminded me of when when Doc Ock is like in the hospital bed or whatever, and he kills all those people. It reminded me a lot of that. I don't know if it's as well directed, to be honest.
No,
but,
definitely not.
But it reminded me on that, like, where you realize that, like, oh, this dude is fucking evil, or like whatever's controlling him is evil, whatever, blah blah blah. And I really liked that. I liked how she basically kills herself to contain the power of the.
Well, here's my question:
the Darkhold.
I don't think she's dead.
I hope she's dead. I really do. I don't think she is either.
Dude, I want her back. She's one of the more interesting characters that we have now. And it feels like she would be a cool, like, kind of. Comic books do this all the time. And I love it, with these like characters who kind of like jump back and forth between like being evil and being like actually helping out. I think she would be good. Like the next time she appears, like she's actually fucking helping out, like doing something.
I imagine she's like isolated and she just like hates herself basically, and like eventually they're gonna need her for
like a Loki character.
She's the ex machina you can bring up in an Avengers movie. It's like, well, we're gonna need her help, and then they cut to her on some random island in Tahiti or something.
It is hard to bring her into, because like I honestly, like, people are acting like they knew this all along. I did not realize that she was like just straight up the most powerful character in the universe until this movie.
Yeah, no, she is.
So now, like, if you introduce her, it's like, oh, there goes all our problems, I guess.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to play with that kind of character and like just have that. You're gonna always be asking, well, where is she? Why didn't she come and help? She could have easily stopped this dude or the villain B or villain C. And I think that they gave a good. If she is still alive, she's not gonna want to fight. Like, she's not gonna want to be a part of this. Like, she's kind of done for a while. For definitely a while. I don't think we'll see her if she is still alive. But listen, we're in the multiverse now, and like I think this is the big problem with the multiverse, is that, like, do these deaths really even matter anyway? Especially with like you see it demonstrated with like Reed Richards' death. It's like, well, we're gonna get another Reed Richards. It's like that kind of takes away from, obviously, to me, it's a plot device to demonstrate her power, but like
at the same time, like, I think they differentiated enough where, like, you're watching a movie, I'm watching Endgame, Tony Stark is dead. Like, let's be real. Like, I think they know when to like actually make it clear, like, no, that character isn't coming back.
For sure. And I that's kind of it's the danger of it. Like, if you could be smart and treat it the way that they have so far, I'll be honest. Like, I thought I liked how restrained Multiverse of Madness was. They could have easily had tons of fucking cameos. They could have done way more, and I'm glad they didn't.
Apparently that was like something they were going to do, but then, like, I guess they decided, like, actually, let's make this into a different movie instead.
Yeah, it's about the characters, you know, and like the multiverse is the context of the story. A lot of people said, like, oh, I wanted more multiverse. I wanted more, like,
I've seen that a lot.
And it's like, like, that would have been fun, I guess, but like that's the context. That's not the story.
I think honestly, the one like scene where we were complaining, like, this goes on a little too long. I think you could have had like that whole sequence where they're first in that universe. You could have made that more of like a quick montage of like going through different universes just for the novelty there. I don't think this should have been like a multiverse like journey movie. Like, that wasn't the point of what they were doing with the movie, but like you could have had a little bit more multiverse shenanigans instead of like that like 10 seconds where you get where they're like just going through them all.
I would have enjoyed how I would have ended the film is have them fight through the multiverse. Have like Stephen Strange and Wanda, they like jump through one of America's portals, and you see that where they're like falling through all that shit and like they're entering all the paint realm and all that shit. Like, I would have loved a fight between kind of like Everything Everywhere All at Once, but basically they're like fighting through the multiverse and they'll stop here for a second and then get sucked into another You know, I think that they could have done more visually, but in terms of like, oh, I want to see the Thing, and I want to see Red Hulk and Wolverine, and you know, like I just don't desire that. I want to see those characters too, but I want to see them in not a cameo spot. I want to see them actually fleshed out and cool.
That's the thing, dude. Like people are like people were so enamored with No Way Home because it was that. It was
they're
like
just
a bunch
desensitized. I feel like that's
Yeah.
really what it is. Like
it's like people value the concept of these characters more than like actually giving them something to do in the story and like having a meaningful presence in the story or a meaningful contribution. Because I would say, like, yes, there are cameos in this movie, but I would say for what they were there to do and what they were meant to do, I think they were meaningful. Like that was very intentional to include those characters and then, you know, use them as like these jobbers who just instantly die. Like I think that's clearly a deliberate choice, and I think it paid off for them. I don't think that just like having a montage where you're going through all these universes and it's like, oh, there's the Thing, hey, the Thing, and then you just go to the next universe. Like, no, that's
like,
so dumb.
wave, guys. So it's like a theme park ride at that point. Like you're literally just like going through like a Disneyland ride. One of the plot lines that I really like, one of the scenes I really liked is when Doctor Strange mentions his sister that died, dude.
Yeah, I was wondering what was that. I was like, did they mention that in the first movie? Am I forgetting something?
That was a cut, a deleted, not even deleted, it was cut. It's not even in like the DVDs of it. They originally showed that scene on the ice where she falls in and all that. And
in the first movie?
In the first movie, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I read about that they like cut an origin story there, but like it just didn't work in the movie or whatever. This happens, I'm sure, all the time for Marvel movies where they have to cut specific things. I've really liked how that was brought up, and it's like, but we don't talk about that. No, we do not talk about that. Like I loved that. I really, really did. One plotline I didn't love, though, this is probably one of my bigger criticisms, is in the beginning of the movie, there's this kind of theme with Doctor Strange as a character, and he eventually asks himself, or someone, I think Christine, his
oh no, dude, I like this.
Where he asks, "Are you happy?"
No,
and
that's the arc. That's the character arc. What are you talking about?
But I feel like we don't touch on that enough throughout the movie. I guess I feel like he asks. I feel like he asks himself another question in the middle of the movie where it's like, "Am I evil?" Like he then questions that, where it's like he realizes all the other Doctor Stranges turn out bad, basically, and it's like, "Am I the bad guy?" And it's not about "Am I happy?" It's more like, I feel like I don't understand. I don't think the character understands what his place is. Kind of by the end of the movie, I think he does have a good arc in terms of like how he develops, and I like the third eye thing. I actually love how the movie fucking ends. I love that he like on the streets.
Super metal.
Yeah, I loved that. I thought that was so cool.
That's a Raimi ending there. That's super hype.
Yeah.
But the thing with Doctor Strange, I was gonna mention this, but I actually. Like there is, yes, like his like whole deal is kind of like compared to Wanda and even America's to an extent is kind of in the background a bit. I still really liked it because there was this really cool theme about how like, and it like I love how it was juxtaposed with Wanda as well because they share this between the two of them. I liked this whole theme of like. It doesn't matter like how powerful you are or like how big your achievements are because like those things do not give you happiness. Like Wanda is the most powerful character in the universe. It's not making her happy. Doctor Strange saved the entire world. It's not making him happy. And I like how they explored that over the movie. And I really love how they brought in that multiverse Christine, the
when he says "I love you," I felt that when he says like "I love," like Cumberbatch is such a good actor, dude. He really just like I just believe this character so much. Like I just really just I am with this character all the way to the end. Like I love his character and I love that scene too. I love Christine as a character. I love that they gave Rachel McAdams more stuff.
Well, that's the thing. They chose like the premise surrounding the movie was like a great justification for bringing her in a different way where they could explore that further when they couldn't with the one that's in his universe, because obviously they have that conversation in the beginning. I thought that first conversation between them was like super real. I really liked the dialogue between them.
It reminded me so much of like Peter and Mary Jane conversations in like Spider-Man 2. Reminded me so much of that.
Yeah, a bit. And
in a good way.
I liked how they framed that where you could tell she was like, it's over. Like she's gone on to her own life, and he was clearly still like very unhappy. And then they chose the best way to explore that a bit more and like give him his own resolution by the end.
Yeah,
I don't know, dude. I liked it.
I think when I wish they kind of, and I think Thor, Love and Thunder is supposed to dip into this more. Like when a superhero asks, like, what is my place? Like, am I happy? Like mental health stuff. When like a superhero asks that kind of question, I think that it gets kind of.
I think this movie does that too. Like Wanda, that's the whole like driving force of her character.
For sure, and I do think that there are plot lines in the movie that definitely, like, I think Wanda has a full arc. I think America has a full arc, and I do think Doctor Strange does too. I think that him choosing not to take America's powers, like she's like ready. She's already. I get it. Like it's time. Like I need. And he says no. Like I'm not going to do that. That's the difference between this Doctor Strange and all the other Doctor Stranges, is that he made the call not to take her powers. He made the call to have someone else carry the knife or whatever, to be responsible for that.
They mention in the movie that like in him, like even in his own universe, he was that same kind of character where he's always the one that has to be in charge, or he's the one that has to make the decisions. And like by the end of the movie, he has a wonderful little arc where by the end he's like, no, this is on you. You do this. Like that's just, it's great.
I do really like that. Yeah, I do really, really like that, and I think that is very much important to his character. Yeah, you're kind of changing my mind on that situation. I think that just the line "Am I happy?" I think entails a sort of a different realization by the end, or something, because he asked Wong that question, and it's like he doesn't really give a meaningful answer at all. And like
he just doesn't understand. He's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, like just doesn't. I think that like that through line kind of depletes, and I think that the question is answered in a different way, or it should have been a different question.
Well, to me, I think if it was just on Strange, I would agree that like, okay, they didn't really focus on that enough to have like a through line throughout the movie, but it carries on through Wanda as well. Like that's a recurring theme with Wanda, is like she's not happy despite, having this power and like, being able to do anything. Like she's after, just like Doctor Strange is after a very specific thing with Christine and not being able to have Christine. Wanda is dealing with that on her own with her family.
Well, if you watch, a crazy thing is that we're getting into like other series and things like that. What if Marvel's What If, there's a story of Doctor Strange where Christine dies in the car accident instead of him losing his hands, and he goes to extreme lengths to bring her back, basically. And it's almost beat for beat the same path that Wanda goes on. Like it literally is like he becomes too evil, and then when he brings Christine back, she doesn't even recognize him anymore. It's like, you're a monster.
What if it was not so ugly?
Yeah, I agree, dude. It was. I watched that episode because I felt like I should probably watch this episode, because I didn't watch the show either, but I watched like the Captain Carter episode and that episode because like I knew that those characters had something to do with the film, and yeah, it's really ugly. It's like laughable almost. When in a world where Star Wars visions exist, it's like, what are we doing here? Like. Get anyone else to animate this, please. There are a multitude of other animation studios that could have done a significantly better job.
There are Western animation studios that you could get. Get the Castlevania team or something.
Get the people that are making like the Marvel cartoon movies that are like well animated. I don't think they're great, but like they don't look terrible.
Yeah.
But all in all, like I hold a lot. I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, it's not in their top 10 Marvel. This is probably in my top 10 favorite Marvel movies. Like
I'm not even thinking about that. Dude.
That's kind of
That's
a weird conversation to have, but like I hold it in high regard, I would say, and I hold it above other Marvel movies. I still think it's insane that we live in a world where Black Widow is like acclaimed and this movie's divisive. Like I really don't get that.
Dude, I've seen some people rank Black Widow above this movie.
I just don't get it. I really don't. But I really liked the movie. I liked there's like just so many direction choices. Some of the transitions. A lot of people didn't like that, and I really love like the weird crossfade stuff. Where like I loved that,
Dude, people just hate original creative things that like they're not used to seeing. Like you see that whole scene where like that scene. You'll know the one I'm talking about, but I'm struggling to remember the exact circumstances. But like, it's this huge scene where like Wanda's like starting to use the Darkhold or whatever. And it's like got these like huge, like very long crossfades and like masked out characters.
I
like,
love
on
that.
both sides. And
oh my god, I love that. They use a circle swipe transition in the movie.
Like the candles and stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like I think that. Cool. People only like Sam Raimi for his those are the only Sam Raimi movies that they've watched, and they haven't seen stuff like Evil Dead or haven't seen stuff like Darkman.
Even the Spider-Man movies have those things.
For sure, but like I think that people went in expecting a more accessible movie like Spider-Man. Whereas I don't think you understand who Sam Raimi is. And with this property, I feel like Sam Raimi can let loose even more experimentation in terms of like how these things are shot and how they're edited as well. And I really like that stuff. The horror aspect when he becomes a zombie, I thought was just phenomenal. And like all the dark spirits, the skeleton creatures. Oh my god.
Cape, dude.
The cape was so cool. I loved it. I absolutely ate that stuff up. I thought the humor was very well handled. There's like not really any like it wasn't a funny movie, but like that did not take away from its entertainment value, in my opinion. I thought
the humor came from not like cringe jokes or like those SNL like skits that just went on way too long in No Way Home. The humor came from like just really Sam Raimi campiness, like Rachel McAdams saying "Go back to hell" to those demons or whatever, like super Evil Dead style like things that were super fun.
Yeah, it was more like fun. It was like more just like I can't believe this is happening, and it's humorous because it is happening. Like him becoming a zombie to me, that was funny. Like I found that very funny in terms of like just like this is ridiculous. Like what is going on? On
multiple occasions, I was just like not laughing, but I had my mouth like wide open because I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that he did this in a Marvel movie.
Yeah, I 100%. I hope they sign him. That movie's doing very, very well, by the way. I really do hope they sign him for Doctor Strange 3. I would love to see him handle this character again. I hope that like there's other characters involved in Doctor Strange 3. Like
I hope they let him go even more hands off with like a James Gunn. Like even like just let him do everything entirely and not try to do all these reshoots and stuff, because I think whatever they did, there was something about the movie where I was like, this doesn't feel 100% Sam Raimi to me.
Yeah, there's areas of the movie that kind of lack cohesion, and like it's got a little bit of some pacing issues and things. It's not a perfect movie, but like I definitely agree where it's like there's kind of a clashing of thematical elements that I think could have formed more naturally. I don't think it's jarring like when it turns to horror at the end. I don't think it's not like what is this in my movie? It doesn't really feel like that, but like
I'm not even talking about tone. I'm just saying like stylistically, I feel like some scenes weren't. You could like tell some scenes weren't actually handled by Raimi, and then when you do get to the scenes that are handled by Raimi, it's like, oh shit, this is Raimi. Mm-hmm. Cannot say good enough things about that entire Wanda chase sequence where she's like chasing them through that Illuminati headquarters.
Yeah, when they're like waiting for her to bust through that door or whatever, and then she just comes from the side, just like I'm right here. Like
so good.
I love that stuff. I really did. It was just a well-handled movie in my opinion. And again, give Sam Raimi more. Give him more characters to play with. I don't know how long this like multiverse arc is going to last in Marvel, but I like the way it was handled here.
Give him more. Let the man do more.
Let him direct Avengers 5.
Do it. I'll take it, dude.
I probably would, actually. But yeah, I think that's going to be it from us. What did you guys think about the movie? Comment down below. Give us your thoughts. And yeah, I like this movie. I kind of want to see it again. Like, I'm like counting down the days until it hits Disney Plus, because actually it's one of the only Marvel movies where it's like, I gotta watch this one again. I feel like there's like things I missed, because it is breakneck at a lot of points in the movie too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's just fun.
It's just
you
yeah,
just wanna
true.
experience it again.
For sure. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for doing this discussion with me. I like doing this for Marvel movies. I don't know if you plan on seeing Thor: Love and
Probably
Thunder.
will.
But yeah,
I probably will.
we'll definitely do a big spoiler discussion for that as well, and whatever other movies that are very good that we'll end up talking about, we'll make sure to do so. But yeah, thanks for being here. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, see you later.